Chapter 1. Awakening in the House of Shadows. Josh's eyelids slowly parted, and he found himself lying on a tattered mattress, stained with mysterious blotches that looked eerily like dried blood. The room around him was dimly lit, and as his eyes adjusted, he noticed the floor scattered with discarded trash, as if the room had been abandoned for years. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of his surroundings, but before he could gather his thoughts, a chilling whisper filled the air. "Quick! You must find out where that key leads to and leave this place, or—" The voice abruptly cut off, leaving Josh puzzled and anxious. Another voice, dark and raspy, intruded on his thoughts. "Escape. There is none. You want freedom? There's no way out for you." The words sent shivers down his spine, and he couldn't help but freeze up, the ominous presence suffocating him. With a sense of urgency, Josh turned to his right, where a nightstand stood, adorned with ancient etchings on its oak surface. Resting atop it was a black key tinged with a hint of green and a bloodied thumbprint staining its metallic surface. His keen eye for detail, honed from his days as a detective back home, made him notice the scratch marks on the dark brown wood floor, signs of a past struggle that had taken place within this grim room. Who was that? Josh thought to himself, contemplating the first voice he had heard. It felt like it might have been a woman, and he sensed a slight comforting tone coming from her as she spoke. Despite his curiosity about the etched nightstand and the cryptic key, Josh couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of distress, thinking of his wife and child back home. He recalled their loving faces and the worry they must be feeling, not knowing where he was. Glancing towards the windows, he noticed they were sealed shut, their glass impenetrable. Panic welled up within him as he futilely tried to break the glass, but nothing seemed to make a dent. He couldn't understand how it had turned from daylight to moonlit darkness outside. As he pondered his predicament, an eerie sensation washed over him, as if unseen eyes were watching his every move. A light fog seemed to rise from the floor, adding to the eerie atmosphere that surrounded him. A sudden creaking sound caught his attention, and his gaze shifted towards the door, which slowly opened on its own, the bottom scratching against the dark brown wood floor. The sight filled him with dread. But he knew that to find answers and reunite with his family, he had to venture into the unknown. Gathering his courage, Josh stepped into the shadowy hallway beyond, the door closing behind him with a resounding thud. The darkness seemed to envelop him as he took his first uncertain steps, his heart pounding, unsure of what lay ahead in the House of Shadows. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Unknown. The fog-covered wood floor made each step treacherous, and the walls, jet black and adorned with claw marks, added to the feeling of eeriness and despair. The darkness seemed to envelop him as he proceeded, tracing his fingers along the walls to guide his way. To his left, the hallway extended endlessly, and at the far end, a faint light flickered, surrounded by foreboding darkness. As Josh took a step forward, a sudden click resonated beneath his foot. His heart leaped into his throat as he quickly shifted his weight to the right, narrowly avoiding a deadly trap. The floor beneath him had given way, and he felt relieved to have escaped the fall. Collecting himself, Josh continued his journey, though the feeling of being watched still lingered in the air. The distant light, which he assumed was a guiding beacon, played tricks on him, disappearing as he approached. Someone, or something, seemed to be toying with his senses. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening reached his ears, accompanied by the patter of approaching footsteps. Panic surged through him as he began to back away, the footsteps growing faster and the growl intensifying. In a flicker of orange light, a massive wolf stood before him, its dark fur blending seamlessly with the shadows. The wolf's fierce, gold-tinged eyes bore into Josh's soul, leaving him paralyzed with fear. In a desperate bid to escape, Josh firmly planted his feet and ran with all his might, feeling the heavy footsteps of the pursuing wolf behind him. As he ran, he tried each door he passed, hoping to find one that would grant him sanctuary. Amidst the chaos, a familiar voice rang in his ears. The woman's voice, the one who had spoken to him before. "Take the next room on the left," she urgently said. Without hesitation, Josh reached for the doorknob of the nearest room, pushing it open and slamming it shut behind him. He leaned against the door, locking it, as the wolf howled and scratched outside, its frustration evident. As the adrenaline subsided, Josh glanced around the room, its ambiance a stark contrast to the sinister atmosphere of the rest of the house. The warm light of a flickering fireplace, a leather chair, and a bear rug offered a semblance of comfort and solace. Then, the room's illumination revealed the woman he had heard before. Her appearance held a touch of distress, her light brown hair somewhat disheveled, and her green eyes filled with sadness. "I am Amelia," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and hope. "I don't know how I ended up here. One day, I was out buying groceries, and the next, I woke up here, unable to leave this room. The door was locked until you came in." Josh, now more intrigued than ever by this mysterious place, asked her, "How have you survived all this time? Where do you get your supplies?" Amelia's face fell with sadness. "I don't know. Every so often the door opens on its own and I find food and other necessities left for me. But I never see who brings them. I'm trapped, just like you." The flickering flames in the fireplace cast dancing shadows on the walls, emphasizing the mystery surrounding Amelia and the House of Shadows. As Josh listened intently to her story, a sense of empathy washed over him. They were both trapped in this eerie place, and Amelia's fear and loneliness resonated with his own feelings. "Do you know anything about this place?" Josh asked, his eyes scanning the room as if seeking answers in the dimly lit corners. Amelia shook her head sadly. "I wish I did, but all I know is that it's been here for a long time, and those who end up inside never seem to leave. I've tried everything to escape, but it has all failed as I have never been able to leave this room." The weight of the situation settled heavily on Josh's shoulders. He had been a detective, trained to observe, analyze, and find solutions to complex problems. But here, in this house of enigmas, all his skills seemed futile. "Have you seen anyone else here?" Josh inquired, hoping that perhaps there was a way to band together with others trapped in this nightmare. Amelia darted her eyes around the room nervously. "I catch glimpses of figures in the shadows sometimes, but they vanish before I can approach them. It's like they're phantoms haunting this place." The unsettling revelation sent shivers down Josh's spine. The thought of unknown entities lurking in the darkness only heightened his sense of vulnerability. As Josh and Amelia continued to exchange stories and theories, a newfound camaraderie grew between them. Despite the oppressive atmosphere of the House of Shadows, they found solace in each other's company. Both had lost something precious. Josh, his family, and Amelia, her freedom. And that commonality created a bond that transcended their strange circumstances. Hours passed, and the darkness outside the windows deepened, making it impossible to distinguish between night and day in this mysterious place. "I have the key," Josh finally said, holding up the black and green key with the bloodied thumbprint. Amelia's eyes widened with curiosity as she leaned forward to examine the key. "So you did hear me. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. It seems to have a mind of its own. Perhaps it's meant to lead us to answers, to a way out of this place." Hope flickered in Josh's heart at the thought. If this key could lead them to escape, then maybe there was a chance for both of them to return to their loved ones. As they deliberated over their next steps, the room's atmosphere shifted, becoming tense, and charged with an unknown presence. The flames in the fireplace wavered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance menacingly. Josh and Amelia exchanged worried glances as a chill enveloped the room. The once comforting ambiance had transformed into an unsettling and threatening aura. It was as if the House of Shadows itself knew of their plans to escape and was resisting their attempts to leave. "We need to be cautious," Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible over the ominous sounds that echoed through the hallway outside. "There's something malevolent in this house. Something that doesn't want us to leave." Josh nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Agreed. "We should tread carefully and stay together. Strength and unity might be our only chance against whatever forces are at play here." Just as they prepared to move, a low, guttural growl reverberated through the walls. The wolf was still outside, waiting for an opportunity to strike. But there was more to the growl this time. It seemed almost human, like a sinister amalgamation of both animal and human traits. As the malevolent presence intensified, the room's flickering lights began to dim, and shadows seemed to writhe and contort around them. The very walls seemed to close in on them, suffocating and oppressive. "We have to keep moving," Josh urged. Determination etched across his face. "If there's a way out of this place, we'll find it together."